I don't know about you, but I think, when it comes to technology, there is quite a few headaches and frustrations and things that one goes through, whenever it is that you may be changing technology or you're looking for new technology, or you want to adopt new technology. But unfortunately, we're in that sort of space of time, I would say, where we cannot do without technology, but having the right technology for what it is that you're trying to achieve is absolutely critical. And today I'm going to share 5 top must-have technologies that you need in your business. And these are by no means all of the technology that you need, but definitely 5 of the must-haves if you want to start somewhere, or if you want to sort of look at where you are currently and you want to sort of reassess and look if there's things that can make your business more efficient, then this is the episode for you. I'm going to get into that, and then there's a bonus one, a 6th sort of tech thing that I must share with you, because it is absolutely vital to bring all of these things together. So let's do it. I don't know, when you talk about technology, it seems to be one of the more popular episodes usually. So, and I'm obviously a bit of a techie and very much a passionate person when it comes to technology, much to the detriment of my poor wife, as I've said many times here on the show. But I'm looking forward to sharing these 5 top tips with you. It's not really top tips, it's more must-have technologies, or probably more areas in your business where there's certain technology that you must employ. So I'm going to go through quite a few things that's on my mind, and things that I see working in practice. And yes, I will share some of the tools with you, but this is also more about like exactly which areas do you need to focus on, what are the things that are absolutely critical to consider for that, and then share a couple of ideas around that. All right, so with that, let's head on over to the current affairs. And this morning we have the lovely Mrs. Lalani Besaidenout doing this for us and sharing all the latest things with us that we need to know and that impacts us as financial planners. So here we go.
Good morning, Francois and team. Francois, I'm always amazed how you get your hair to be that perfect. Well done on that. So good morning to everybody online, and a special shout out to my colleague David, who's also online, but also all the members of the FPI. Thank you so much for joining us. So what is relevant and current? There's a lot of things going on in the world. And Francois, one of my challenges is always to try and squish it into 5 minutes, but let me give it a go. So the very first thing that I want to update you on is, I don't know if you've seen it, but I've been waiting for this one for some time to come out. I had meetings with Unati Kamlana, the commissioner of the FSCA last year, but also had meetings with Pumla, the CEO of the Financial Sector Transformation Council. And I said to them that there was a disconnect in COFI, what comes from National Treasury, what comes from FSCA, but also the Financial Sector Transformation Council. So I was jumping over the moon when I saw this eventually coming out. It came out this week, even though it's dated the 28th of February, it only came out this week, where it's released for public comment, and that's the first draft of the Financial Sector Transformation Strategy for comment. So if you're an FSP, a small one, a large one, we do know there's already in the FSR Act and the Insurance Act, there's already elements of transformation coming in for big insurers, but you have to keep out, looking for the conduct standard under COFI that will come out with regards to your transformation policy. But what Unati is doing now, he's positioning the framework for transformation for the sector at large. And it is what I guessed it to be. The framework is based on the Financial Sector Code. In other words, the B codes for the financial services industry. We know the different industries throughout South Africa has got different B codes. So have a look for this one. The full Financial Sector Transformation Strategy is on their website. You'll see that we've also shared it with the FPI members on the community. So it does split it between the small, medium enterprise. You've got a specialized scorecard, and then the scorecard for the bigger FSPs. And what's very important there, remember, the Triple B codes hones in on procurement and how you do procurement as well. So it's from procurement to how you do training with your staff. And remember, if you are grasping and grabbing at straws, thinking, what am I going to do about development for especially my Black representatives, remember FBI is there. We have advice designations, but also the financial planning designation. We also have CPD programs that you can register your representatives and key individuals on. Then another one that sits very close to David's heart, and Francois, I know he's burning to actually have done this update himself because he's been involved boots and all over the past few years in this, and I see it came out where the Financial Sector Conduct Authority also launched the Accredited Financial Literacy Facilitator course. So this is for the person, you can see my whiteboard there. If you like to draw pictures like me, this is for you as the facilitator. And I think the beauty about this one, it is mapped at an NQF level, and they actually assigned NQF credits to this. So 10 credits was assigned to it. And if you want to know more about this, the training program includes a full suite of learning material for you. It's a facilitator guide that you can use as the facilitator, the learner guide, the learner workbook, and then obviously your presentation pack. You need a presentation. So if you want to know more about this fantastic course that was developed by the Consumer Education Department at the FSCA, you can either email them at ced.consumer@fsca.co.za, or you can just hop onto www.fscamymoney.coza. Again, well done to David and his team, David and Rihanna, for the work that you've done. Yeah. Then there's a few other things I quickly just want to pop in that you may or may not know about. Remember the Income Tax Act. If you look at the Taxation Law Amendment Act that came out, there's certain definitions and changes that came effective 1 March 2020, and it amends the fringe benefit consideration of long service awards. So you'll find that in section 1, that's where you always find the definition of gross income definition, and the 7th schedule employment or office benefits that's being updated. Another change that comes in is the timing of disposal rules regarding assets acquired from a deceased estate. Now, I know this is right up your alley, Francois, so be aware of those changes. Again, you'll find that in section 1, where the Act refers to liquidation, distribution, account definitions, also section 25. It also amends members' ability to use retirement interest to acquire annuities on retirement. That also changes. And it also amends transfer. There's an amendment in the Act where it amends transfers between retirement funds by members 55 years or older. So have a look. Remember that change came in effective 1 March. And then from my side, if I may then just leave you with a leadership quote. You don't have to be somebody who's in a leadership position to take this quote and make it yours. So for everybody in line, and for everybody who may or may not listen to the recording, if your actions inspire others to dream more, it could be your children, your wife, somebody that's in your house. So if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. So let's continue to change South Africa together. Francois, with that, thank you so much. I'm going to hop in my car, drive to the office. Over to more Norma. Thank you very, very much. Have a blessed day. Goodbye.
We often get results that we don't want, and then we wonder why. Well, this morning, hopefully, I'm really looking forward to this one, that Norma is going to unpack that for us and say, well, why does that in fact happen? So really excited to hear what Norma has to say.
Good morning. So my topic is why we get results that we don't want. So if you've been listening to the show over the last couple of weeks, we've really been building up to where we are today. But for those who haven't attended or haven't seen those sessions, let me just recap quickly. So really we have 5 ways that we can categorize anything that happens in our world. So we have circumstances that we can't control. Those are the things that happen in our world. Then those circumstances really trigger us to have thoughts. Then the thoughts create the emotions or feelings we feel inside our body, that vibration. And then those vibrations create us to take certain actions or drives us to take those actions. And then if we take enough of those actions, we get to a certain result. So the circumstances we can never control. That's the things that happen outside of our control, but the rest of it we can control. So when we are in a position where we have the results that we don't want, normally and obviously something didn't happen on one of these levels. So when we have results we don't want, then we want to go and fix it by maybe going to our actions. So if I have a money goal that I want to achieve and I didn't achieve that goal, then I might go and look at my actions. Maybe I need to learn more. I need to do more programs. I maybe need to see more clients. I need to work more hours in a day. I need to maybe hire more employees. And that's really the harder way of doing these things. It's not always sustainable, and it can be very unnecessary to even go and do those things. Although at some points it might be necessary to do it, but as I mentioned, if we can do the work beforehand, it might not even be necessary to go those extreme steps. So the other way we also try and do it is by changing our circumstances. So if I, for instance, didn't hit my money goal, then I might go and lower that number so I can feel better about my goal and it's less challenging, for instance. Or when I'm not happy in a relationship, I want to end this relationship and go find another one. Or if I don't reach my health goals, I want to set the health goal aside and go find something easier to do. Another thing we also do with our circumstances is that we blame the world outside. So if we didn't hit our money goal, we might say it's the economy or it's COVID or it's something out of our control. So what we normally do with our circumstances is that we over-dramatize and we tell the story about what is happening in our life. And if we actually just see that we can separate the story that we tell about it from the facts, then we can clearly see sort of what is our next step. So instead of saying that I failed my money goal for 2021, I can really just change it and separate the facts from the story. So my goal was, let's say, 1 million for 2021, and I actually made, let's say, 750K. So now I'm in a position to say, okay, now what? What do I think about this? What am I going to make it mean? So this, again, is also the harder way of doing it, as well as the actions, because as I've mentioned, it's maybe not always sustainable, and it's the harder way of doing things. So the way I always suggest and offer is to really go and look at the thoughts and feelings combination. So if I look at my goals, I can see who is the person that I need to be right now in order to get to those goals. So if I look at my relationship or even money goals, who do I need to be right now to get there? So who am I being while I'm working towards it? So what am I thinking right now about those goals? What do I believe about myself? What do I maybe believe about my business? What do I believe about my clients? What do I believe about the products that I'm selling? What do I believe about my spouse? So once I know what I'm currently thinking, I want to know also what do I need to think in order to get there. And it's always a great exercise to go and imagine and visualize that future self. And imagine that future self already having that goal, have already achieved that goal. And then we can gain lots of wisdom from that place that we can use right now. So once we've created or thought about all the ways of thinking that's going to get us there, then we are in a position to create those feelings that's going to drive our actions. So my thoughts is going to create determination, motivation, it's going to energize me for this goal. It's going to give me courage and all of the things that I need to move forward. So thank you for listening. This is me. This is my short series that I've done about how we see the world and the 5 ways that we can categorize anything and all of these steps that needs to happen so we can get closer to our goals and reach our results. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you again next week.
Thank Thank you very much, Norma. I really appreciate it. That was awesome. Right, so let's get into a little bit of the announcements. I always have a very short, well, in my mind, it's short. Hopefully it's short enough for you. But just a couple of announcements. And really, I think the big one that I want to announce today is just simply one thing, and that is that the tickets to the Global Financial Planning Conference that's taking place on the 18th or 17th and 18th of May this year. It's a virtual conference. It's based off the back of everybody that is currently going through the Speaker and Influencer program, from which we're already seeing phenomenal growth. We're seeing phenomenal sort of how people evolve, and we get feedback from their sort of people that they report to and saying like, whoa, this person's presentation skills and their speaking skills and the way they deliver their messages have just exponentially improved. And it's things like that that really encouraged me. And it's not an award-winning sort of program for nothing, I guess. It's because we really use phenomenal coaches. So this year, the coaches are Dominic Colenso, it's Nick Elston, as well as Asker Lindholt. And they are all phenomenal speakers in their own right. They stand on stage. They've been doing this for many, many years. In fact, Dominic was in a Hollywood movie as well. So these people really know how to communicate. They know how to interact, engage, and connect with the community or with an audience or with another person, etc. But they bring all of that to this program, and we're really excited. So then everybody that goes through this program, they get to do a 10-minute tech-style talk at the conference, and that's what it is. So it's a conference for financial planners. So really excited to have the tickets go live today. So you are welcome to go and check that out. So tickets are only 290 Rand, and there's the link on the screen. It's just propulsion.co.za/GFPC22. So that stands for Global Financial Planning Conference 2022. So just propulsion.co.za/GFPC22. So please go check it out. 290. I will add the link at the bottom here below as well. But I think this is the biggest one. And then also sponsorships are open. So we are taking on sponsors. It's quite expensive to run the Speaker and Influencer program. So if you want more information as a sponsor, then you're welcome to get in contact with me so that we can share all of that information with you. And we would really love the support of the profession here in South Africa, and help us invest into the growth of our own financial planners and our own ability to have a bigger impact just beyond the financial planning that we do. And I don't know, something like speaking is definitely one of those ways where we can impact, influence, and help people in a much broader sense. So that's that for announcements. And also maybe the last announcement, the segment after the featured topic, which is obviously about the technology today. We have Louis van der Merwe presenting his first session on Beyond Financial Planning. And this segment truly just looks to the future. What do we do beyond financial planning, et cetera, et cetera. So there's quite a few things that Louis can share. And as you know, he has his own podcast. And he's been interviewing some fantastic guests, both local and international guests. And he's really been doing a phenomenal job, and also bringing some of that knowledge and things that he's learned during all of those episodes to this segment. So really excited to have Louis do that for us every month. So yeah, I think with that, let's quickly see if there's any specific content or comments rather. So good morning, Frederik. It's been a while. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. Uncle Kevin, nice to see you. Good morning. And yep, there you go, Razan. So hashtag GFPC22, here we come. So absolutely. Righty, so then, as I get to click into the next feature topic, here we go. We're going to talk about 5 top must-have technologies for your financial planning practice in 2022. Right, so yeah, I don't know, in my mind, always when I talk about these things, yes, it's for financial planners or financial planning practices, but this equally applies to any other kind of professional practice or even small business or even maybe larger businesses, because, you know, if you have a business, it doesn't really matter what service you are providing or what you're selling. This is really the fundamentals that we need if we really run a proper business in 2022 and beyond, for that matter. So I think before we can get into a conversation around this, what we definitely need to do is to consider what are the prerequisites. You know, if you want to look at technology, you want to implement new technology, or you want to adopt something, you know, what are the prerequisites? And I think, well, I know from experience, because I've been involved with this over the last 20 whatever odd years, is that unless you know where you're going, you are going to implement the wrong technology, or you are going to implement technology that works, but not as well as it could be working for you, simply because you had no idea around where you're going with your business. You know, what does it look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And for many of us, it's very difficult, I think, to sort of gather what that looks like, in 5 years' time. I surely couldn't 5 years ago tell you exactly this is where we're going to be. Many of the things that I wanted to do, we've achieved, but there's also loads of things that we didn't. And, there's things that then came about that I didn't foresee, and we sort of adjusted course, etc. So those are the kind of things that, yes, we don't know, but you at least need to know in which direction to go. So that's extremely important. And once you have that, so I'm just saying knowing where you're going, because it's a nice rhyme to it. But then once you have that and you have this clear vision of where you want to take your business, and this doesn't really matter whether you're just starting out, whether you've been in business for 20 years, 30 years, it doesn't matter, and anything in between. At any point in time, you need to be able to answer the question, where am I going? Where am I taking my business? Where do I want to go? So, and am I happy with the direction I'm going in at the moment? So there's obviously a lot of work that needs to take place there. But when you are clear on that and you know exactly what you want to do, then buy-in is absolutely critical. So your own buy-in, because sometimes you think, this is good, but I'm not a technology person. These things just, it scares me. It makes me uneasy. It makes me, I know I have to do it, but the buy-in isn't really there. And the buy-in starts with you as the owner of your practice, specifically if you have people that help you and assist you, so you have a team, etc. It's so important for you to have that buy-in and take the lead and an interest in what it is that you're about to do from a technology point of view. Then commitment. Commitment is absolutely critical. So buy-in and commitment is not the same thing. Commitment means that I'm going to see this through, come hell or high water. We will make this work. We will do the work. So that's what is really, really important. Then effort. Don't have an illusion that any piece of software, whether it's something you buy online or whether it's a bespoke solution that you're implementing and anything in between, there is effort involved to get it implemented, and then most importantly is to adopt that technology. Now, what does it mean to adopt technology? To adopt technology means that you actually take the time to learn it. You take the time to influence the people in your business to use that. You make it the standard. This is the way that we work. We're going to go through this pain together. But once that is over, just think about when you start exercising for the first time in 50 years, it's painful. But 6 months down the line, a year down the line, what a breeze. You run and you think, like, I never thought I would be able to run this far, this quickly. So it's exactly the same with technology. So very important. So those are definitely the 4 things. Know where you're going, buy-in, commitment, and then effort. Don't have any illusions around that. There is no drag and drop solution where you get your login and then boom, there you go, fantastic. That is definitely not how it works. So you need to put in that effort. Right, so let me get into the 5 things or 5 aspects that I think is absolutely critical. If you want to review your financial planning practice and the technology that you use, these are 5 areas that I would go and look at. If you're starting a new practice, these are 5 areas where I would start. All right. And as I said in the intro, by no means are these the only 5 things you need to worry about. There is a lot of other stuff around this. I was first going to build this on sort of thinking about what are the 5 building blocks of any business. But then I thought, let me just think about financial planning businesses, and I see, like, where do people struggle the most, or where do you actually have tech solutions, but you're losing out on the opportunity because it's not being used effectively, or maybe it's simply not the best tool for your specific business. So let me get into the first one, and this first one is going to go from, so this is not exciting. This is like, duh, I knew you were going to say that, but it has to be said, and that is CRM. And I think, what is the definition of a CRM for you? For most people, it's a little place where we keep at a very high cost the name, surname, ID number, and email address of our clients. And sometimes a telephone number, and that's about it. So it's sort of that thing I need for my financial planning software to work. So that's what a CRM is, but it absolutely is not that. When I think about CRM, I also want to step away from the actual system called a CRM. So I want to more focus on what is customer relationship management, and it's exactly what it says. It is, how do I manage the relationship with my client? How do I stay on top of what is changing in their lives? How do I look at my client base as a whole and look for trends and look for opportunities and look for things that, maybe I don't know. How do I make sure that, whenever something changes, I get notified immediately about it so that I can stay in the know? Because it's simply impossible to stay on top of 20 clients. You can't speak to them every single day. Now, what about 100, 200, 300 clients that you're looking after? You can't stay. I mean, I've seen so many times where I've just spoken to someone, then 2 months later I follow up, and the things that happened in that space of time is mind-blowing, and you don't even know about it. And a proper CRM system can help you a long way in doing CRM, because this is about what are we trying to achieve with CRM. It's that connection with the client, it's the relationship, it's being in the know, it's being able to do that data mining, all of that. Now, obviously, and I've seen this in practice, right, where clients are so frustrated. Financial planners are so frustrated because they have the system, but they can't use it. And the reason why they can't use it is because the data that is in there is not great. It's inconsistent. It's not completed. It's not comprehensive. There's mistakes. It's not up to date. And if there's one thing that you and I and any other business owner must realize today, is that you are the owner of your data. The primary responsibility to make sure that your system has the information that it needs is that responsibility sits with you. You and your team. You need to own that data. You need to make sure it's up to date. You need to drive a consistent. Think about when you go to the doctor. The very first thing they do, you could have been there last week, but the very first thing they do is go, here's a form. Is all your information still the same? Okay, yeah, I just gave it to you last week, but is it all still the same? We need to get into that habit to make sure that we also are continuously asking for clients if the information is up to date. And then secondly, make it easy for them to update the information. What you don't want is to send them a form. They need to print it, fill it in, scan it back in, send it back to you, or having to come to your office to sort of update the information, etc., etc. So this is also where proper CRM system can help you quite a lot, where they have the access to actually just go and update certain information that you control, that you know these are things they will know and that they are able to update, like, not misspelling their email address and misspelling their surnames and et cetera, et cetera. I think the biggest challenge with that is people that are still putting in their names and surname all in small caps or all in large caps. So, yeah, it's an ongoing battle. But anyway, so that is extremely important. But another part of CRM is referability. How do you make sure that, because of part of customer relationship management is that it's inevitable that in that client base of yours, you are going to have people that absolutely love you and that wants to tell the world. And on the other hand, you have people who just don't actually care. And that's fine. But for that portion of your client base who absolutely wants to tell the world about you, how do you ensure that the next person they refer you to has the same experience as the other person that another client is actually referring you to, or just sharing your details with? How do you ensure that you show up consistently in the same way and you make that first impression that goes like, whoa, this is on a next level. I've never seen something like this. So how do you ensure that happens? Because, I mean, yes, you have your website. Yes, you have like all these other things. You probably have a business card. You have I don't know, like maybe you have a podcast, maybe you have a show like I do, maybe yeah, there's a lot of things. You have your LinkedIn profile with all your details on it and all of it. And then how do you make sure that the client gets what they need to? How do you probably have, maybe you have a YouTube channel where you have this welcome video, but all these things are disjointed and it's just information all over the place. And to really keep that in one place doesn't always make sense. But what you do want is something that will be there to tell clients like, whoa, pick and choose what it is that you want to know. Pick and choose how you want to engage with me. This is how do you want to enter my domain? How do you want to enter my house? Do you want to come in the front door, the back door? Want to stay at the gate? What is it that you want to do? And things like that is extremely important. Now, obviously, for me, my tool of choice is Profile Me. So you all know it. I've said it before. And it's not just because Razan and I do a lot of things together. I myself started using this a long time before we started working together. So for me, that is an absolute gem of a tool. It's a digital profile application that looks phenomenal, and you can customize it to your needs. And it's not replacing any of your other things. It is just organizing things. It's like going to the mall. You go in the front entrance and there's all these shops, but I can choose where I want to go. I don't have to go into every single shop and talk to every single person. I can choose what I want to do, how I want to do it. But the biggest thing is the mall here always looks the same. It's consistent. So when you get to my mall, you know, the experience for everybody is the same. It's not different, even though every mall has got several different entrances, etc., etc. So from a referability point of view, definitely for me, part of CRM. Then, you know, just if I think about how we manage that relationship, as I said before, if you have the right data, there's a lot of stuff that the CRM can let you know well beforehand that this is happening. And I'm not just talking about birthdays and anniversaries. I mean, those are like, I mean, we've had that even long before there were proper systems. But there's more than that. There's more critical things that you can keep track of, you know, whether it's specific goals or maybe a simple note that somebody has said to you. And you can classify and do all of this in these CRMs in order to be able to data mine this, but also to set some sort of an alert that would come and say, whoa, this is now happening or this is coming up, etc., etc. So a CRM or CRM in your business, customer relation management, is extremely important. If you want to stay on top of that, then a proper tool is definitely necessary. Now, I mean, here, I don't know, if I need to get into CRMs, I think I can do an episode just on CRMs, but there is a myriad of options, right? It's not a momentum option, it's just a myriad of options. And you can choose anything from just CRMs. And typically also when you start searching for CRMs, you'll see it's very much sales focused to manage prospects, etc., etc. So that's always part of a CRM. But for me, it goes way, way beyond that. So whether you use sort of an all-in-one type system like an Xplan or an AdWork or Elite Wealth or Avalon, whatever system sort of you're into, a Firestorm or whatever, or whether you go to a HubSpot or Capsule CRM, or, you know, there's all these different kind of CRMs. The one thing that you need to expect is, because this is such an important part of any business, it's quite expensive. Specifically, if you go standalone CRM systems, they are much more expensive than the purpose-built CRMs that are there for financial planning specifically. But I think the way you approach your CRM, if that's my message today, make sure you know and understand what that system can do already for you, and how many of these things that I spoke about can actually be addressed by that. All right. The next part that is extremely, extremely important in your business is onboarding. And we're going to do an onboarding challenge in PROpulsion Pro, by the way, for our members to sort of help them put together this onboarding process. And then, you know, as much of that, use technology to make that an amazing client experience. So just as a buy note. But so onboarding, I think there's a lot of aspects when it comes to onboarding. One is definitely gathering the data, gathering the information. And again, you know, whether this is the first time that this client is joining your practice, so it's a new client, or whether it's an existing client, you know, and there's more information you need, there's new information, you need to update information for a review. Whatever that may be and what that entails, onboarding is absolutely a critical part of your business. Now, onboarding means getting not only a person onto your systems, it's getting them properly into your business. So how do you welcome someone? If somebody comes for a braai at your house, all right, if you're watching from somewhere else in the world, a barbecue, and they come and visit, and they sort of get to your house, you don't leave them at the door or at the gate, and you wait inside for them to come in. No, you go outside and you greet them, you bring them in, you sort of show them where everything is, you make them feel welcome, you make them feel special, you know, and even if it's people that's been coming to your house for ages, you still do the same thing because you want them to feel welcome. And that's the role of the onboarding process. And a big part of it, as I said, is gathering the person's information, getting to know the client, specifically if it's new clients, but also throughout the journey. Then, you know, once you have all that information, how do we get it into the system? Not how, but it's freaking important that we get it into the system, because if we look at the CRM stuff, that's what we need it for. We also need this information to know and understand, how does the client want us to communicate with them? You know, then when we need to do financial planning, we need that information. So there's this massive amount of information that we really need in order to deliver our value proposition to our clients. So getting them into the system is often a painful process if there's a lot of information. But it's critical that it gets in there and it gets in there correctly and that we don't make mistakes. Then obviously, as I said, if I can go back to sort of talking about like making somebody feel welcome, is there must be a series of ongoing communications to sort of orientate. It's almost like when you get to grade 8 and you must go through orientation, right? In my days, it was called ontgroening. It was something completely different. You ended up in dustbins and things like that as part of your ontgroening. But these days, that's not allowed anymore. So now you have orientation. And I think that's what we have with us as well. So you want the client to get a series of communications so that you don't overwhelm them with all the information. But you want to now show them what is possible. Maybe you want to introduce your team to them one-on-one and say, this is Francois, and Francois does this, and this is where you can get hold of them. Tomorrow, there's another communication going out. Oh, this is Kwesi. This is what Kwesi does, and this is where you can get hold of Kwesi. Then maybe there's a next one introducing them to the history of your business and why do you do what you do, and remind them of why they're actually working with you and have chosen to work with you. So I can go on about that. But what is important is there's a series of communications needed as part of your onboarding process in order to orientate and settle a client so that they feel comfortable and feel that they are being cared for. And often then that leads to, now we need to have another meeting. So we've gathered your information, we've got you in the system, we've orientated you. Now we need to meet again to take the next step, whatever that next step is. So in this space, there's quite a few things that one can use. There's forms. And we're actually going to do a session on that as well, of how to build forms. But not only that, Razan is going to join me for that one to sort of share with everyone how do you design a great form. Because you also, don't just want to ask information for the sake of asking information. And also, how we structure this and what it looks like is extremely important, because is it easy for a client to go through the process, or is it a very painful process for them to fill in this form? So I'm going to show the guys in PROpulsion Pro exactly how you build these forms, and then Razan is going to show what are the design things that we need to consider for that. So we will announce exactly the date when that will happen, but really looking forward to that as well. So gathering information, big part there is forms. And there's like the bonus thing I'm going to talk about at the end is the absolute missing and crucial part to that. But I'm going to keep you a little bit in suspense. We'll get to that. So yeah, from a communications point of view, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later as well. But obviously, there's many different ways this day that we can communicate in different ways and forms. And also, do you know what your client's communication preference is? Probably something that Louis will talk about. You would have heard Mariette Tappen talk about this as well. It's a big part of transitioners planning as well, where they look at, what is the way in which people want to be communicated with. I prefer an email, you prefer an SMS, you prefer WhatsApp, you prefer video, you prefer written, some people want to be called. So do we even know? And that's where the CRM is so critical, because you will not be able to remember all of those preferences. So very important to do it that way. All right. So that is the onboarding process, and I will get to the comments in a second. All right, then planning. Planning is obviously a big part of what we do. And here's quite a few things to consider when it comes to planning. So just to recap quickly where we are. So you need CRM technology, right, to really manage and understand what is it that you're trying to manage and understand where you're going with your business. Then it's onboarding, right? So technology to help you with onboarding a client seamlessly and create that amazing client experience. Then planning, we need to deliver planning. And this is usually where some of us can really get stuck in, and it takes a lot of time because we are analytical and we want to get into like every single detail, and the client mustn't ask us anything that we wouldn't be able to answer. And, depending on the type of client you work with, these can be very intricate for every single client, or maybe you're used to run-of-the-mill type of clients that all have sort of the same issues, and then you get this one outlier client, and then suddenly it takes over a week of your life. But planning is an absolute big part of what we do. It is the actual product that we deliver. It's the advice, right? So I can say planning, you can call it advice, whatever you want. So the first one here is then, there's these different types of advice. Do you know and understand your financial planning process? Are you following a goals-based financial planning approach? Are you following, do you prefer to do cash flow? Do you do both? When it's younger clients, you do the one. If it's older clients, you do the other one. Or when it's people starting to draw down from investments, you go more cash flow based. do you have more of a financial coaching approach? Do you have more of a lifestyle financial planning approach? And some people may say that goal-based and lifestyle financial planning is the same thing. I don't believe they're 100% the same thing. There's a big overlap probably. But the true lifestyle financial planners will be able to tell you that. So, is the technology that you're using helping that? But then there's quite a few things missing from most financial planning technologies across the world. So it's not only in South Africa, it is literally across the world. And I don't know if people are catching on yet. I've been talking about this now for the last 3 years, I think. And people don't know what I mean when I talk about this. And there are some systems who's done this extremely well. And some of you are using some of those systems. It is absolutely amazing. And I look at the feedback and sort of the input and just everything around these things. But what is critically important when it comes to financial planning tools is the engagement with the client. So does this tool lead to proper engagement? Does it help you involve the client in the process? Because what we've been doing for years is talking at clients. So we've been telling them, listen, like I looked at your assets and liabilities, I looked at your income and expenses and all the things that you said you want. And based on that, you need 50 million and 3,000 trillion rand of life cover. Fantastic. And the client sits there and okay. And at the end of the day, when they have that golden comment, like, Francois, I don't know, you the expert, you tell me what to do. Whenever you hear that, it can be a stroke to your ego and say, you know what, I'm the man, I'm the woman. But that for me is a big red flag to say, no, you can't. Like, this client was not engaged. This client is not participating. They're not really part of this journey. They are a spectator to their own journey, and that's not what you want. So my question is, like, one thing that you definitely need to consider is this. So either the tool that you're using does have an engagement process built around it and a philosophy and all of that, or you need to create that for the tool that you are using. Right? So you need to take it a step further, because a lot of this training that I've done in my life over the last however many years, there's two things always, like, people get to the report and then, okay, no, what does the report mean? And then what we typically do is we take the report and we go down from the top to the bottom with a client and we go through that. And that is not efficient. It is not helpful. It is not engaging at all. It's again causing the client to just be watching from the sidelines. But what you need to think about is, like, what are the questions you're going to ask around this? How do you involve the client? How do you get them to think about this and to sort of process this and then come up with what do they think and what do they feel and what do they want to do? So it's having that engagement process around the output of your tool. And often now these days with virtual, people are sitting with clients virtually like this through a camera, and now it's even more important than when we were doing this in person. So that engagement and involvement from a client point of view is so important. And all of the systems has the ability to have this built around it. Some of it you may just have to go do yourself and figure out yourself, but extremely important from that point. You must be able to track and compare and adjust planning over the life cycle of this client with you easily. So you shouldn't start from scratch every year or with every interaction. It must be able to build a storyline, and you must be able to take what you did last time, create a copy, work from there as a basis. Or if you want to start from scratch, you must be able to start from scratch. So these things are very important. One of the things that I haven't really looked at here is sort of what does the output look like for these systems? But you also need to sort of go and work and think on that to say, what would be useful for my client? What do they really want to see and know? Because I've always had this issue with there's stuff for compliance, because we need every single piece of paper and every single signature we possibly need. And then there's this one page that the client was actually looking for to know if they're okay, or if they're going to be okay, or what do they need to be, what do they need to do to be okay? That's all they want. They don't care about the packs of paper, okay? But how do we make that easy for them to digest the information and the advice and to be able to make a decision at the end of the day? The compliance stuff can happen, and you can still have your reams of paper, but it's very important to think about client engagement and involving clients every step of the planning way. And then what about some self-planning options for clients? Have you ever considered that? To sort of have very simple tools, whether it's an Excel tool or whether you have something on your website, to enable clients to do a simple calculation for something, a very simple thing. It's a very simple tool. Yes, there's loads of them available. You just go Google and you'll find them. But why do you want them to go to Francois' site if they can come to yours? I don't know. So it's all these little value add things that you can look at. Righty, so that is planning the technology there. And again, guys, there's the traditional stuff. There's a lot of overseas stuff. So I'm not really going to get into that, into the detail. You have fantastic planning tools here in South Africa that is really built for our market. There's a lot of international things that are sort of location independent and that you are able to use, maybe not to the same depth, but there's often this debate around like how deep do you need to go with the client. I just said they don't need the reams of paper, so how much detail do we really need? But there's all these different options. The biggest thing here is understanding how you approach planning and finding a tool that actually helps that. And if you don't have a process, you don't have a plan, you feel like every single client is different, then you need to start looking at what's available and whether you can adopt one of those philosophies, because that will go a long way in helping you. All right, so let's see quickly. There's quite a few comments here. Before I continue, we sort of 2/3 of the way through. All right, so CRM should be the engine of your financial planning business, says Louis. Absolutely, it is the core, and that's why I started with it. Mark, a house is only as solid as its foundation. Absolutely. Hello, Kobus Keen. So nice to see you. A Slice of Finance. Morning, everyone. Thank you for all the updates on latest tech. Love it. Very useful. Thank you very much, Kobus. Arun, good morning. Nice to see you. And then Mel says she's a Profile Me user. Very happy about that. Best and most innovative product of our century. Lekker. I must say I agree. And also, if you really take an interest and have a strategy around it and you really use it, it's phenomenal what it does. All right, so I see there's a few questions, so let me just jump around. There goes Mel. She says, my CRM tool is like my Bible for my business. It runs my business. Absolutely. And there's one or two of the things that I'm going to talk about now that could be separate, or often it is also included in your CRM. And sometimes people don't even know it, but don't tell. I'll tell you later. Okay. Yes, there goes Mel. It depends on who's visiting, whether you open the door or not. Very true. I hope you'll open the door when I come to Durban. Good morning, everyone. Rather late than never. Hello, Wilco. It's been a while. Very nice to see you. Hi, Neil Phillips. Nice to see you as well. That's amazing. Kevin says that he uses Jotform for designing and using many forms. Yes, there's some fantastic tools out there. Louis also says he loves Jotform as well. So great stuff. Neil says CRM is the heart of his business. And then, so we will definitely do that, Mel. There's quite a few of these things that we're looking at sharing and giving more information around and showing what it's actually possible. And that's what we want to do with that form session specifically. So HubSpot is what Kevin uses, now upgraded to the starter plan, because obviously a lot of these things, they do have a free options. You can try them out, but then very soon you either run out of capability or there's those capabilities you really need that's not in the free version, and then inevitably you will be upgrading, but it's so worth the investment in that. So, right, so let me continue before I run out of time with the next section, and the next section here is servicing. So obviously, it's great to onboard clients and to find clients and to know a lot of stuff about them and to be able to do planning, but we also need to be able to deliver a service. Now, there's quite a few things here. There's tasks and workflows and all sorts of things that are part of servicing, and these are really the heart of where your processes live. So if you have documented your processes, the thing you want to do is make sure that it gets into a system that can consistently and continuously run these processes. And why? Because the main aim is that we don't want to drop the ball. So very, very simple. Now, many of the purpose-built CRM systems, so if I say purpose-built, I'm talking about CRM systems built for financial planners in South Africa, but there's also other stuff outside, and Louis can probably share some of those, like Wealthbox, etc. Excuse me, but yeah, it is one of those things that often in these CRMs you have the ability to create and track tasks. You can have one task that triggers another task, and that's usually where workflows come in. So you can connect a series of tasks that is needed to complete a specific instruction or a specific thing, and you can have it in there so that when you get a new person joining your team, if they can read, then fantastic. You just say, there's the system, show them where to go, where to click, make sure they have access to the system. And as long as they can read, they can follow the process. So not hard. They can ask the questions around things that they don't know and understand. So this is very important. But I think also another extremely important part around servicing and having a workflow task type of system is that you can automatically, or like I like to say automagically, keep the client up to speed throughout the process, so that it's not I need to send Francois an update. The system can just automatically do that. Every time something changes, it can send the latest information automatically to the client. Now, obviously, that goes with training your team and understanding that whatever notes you make, that is what's going to go to the client. And so, or you can have templates set up that would, if it reaches a certain stage, there's a specific email that gets sent so that as it moves through stages, it updates the client. Or you could have it where that actually every single time something is added to a task, a comment or feedback or a change or whatever, that it then sends an update as well. So it depends on what level. I mean, like at least updating with stages and where you are, and specifically if there's certain SLAs in place, that you make sure that you communicate those and update a client as you go. Saves a lot of time when you don't have to do that manually. So very, very important. And then also what this brings is a lot of rich data. So you can actually analyze this information to see what is keeping your staff busy, what is keeping you busy from a servicing perspective. Because remember, servicing is sort of a big part around maintenance, and yes, also for future business and future growth. But servicing is more to do with retaining your client, keeping your client happy, making sure they keep the trust that they've built in you. So it's just one of those necessary things that we have to do, and any business has to do that. But it's so important that, you know, when you look at that information, to say, where can I be more efficient? We get the same thing over and over and over again. Why is that happening? Can I change the process? Is it something that I never talk to my clients about, but everybody asks about it, or everybody needs it? Maybe you identify a new service that you can offer. Maybe, you know, there's all these things that when you have this data that you can really come up with. But to do that, you need a proper system. And also, you know, it's quite important that things tend to sort of talk to one another, and that also you don't have to retype or rekey information all the time. You want to put it in once, okay, and then it's there. You shouldn't be, I need to put it in this system, and then I need to put it in that system, and then also in this system, because now I've got these three things, and then that's fantastic. Now I have three sets of data. So how do I put this all into one and see one clear picture of all of these things together? So so definitely something to consider from that point as well. Then a massive part for any financial planning practice is communication. This is absolutely critical. And again, as I said earlier, you know, do you know what your client's communication preferences are? And that's quite important. So conversation is important. You want to have a conversation. This isn't about pushing information to your client. It's about entering into a conversation. It must be able to be back and forth. And it doesn't have to be in real time. It can be asynchronously, is my big English word for today. So it could be that you are saying something, and then 3 hours later the client responds, and then 2 hours later you respond. So it's not happening in real time, but it is an ongoing conversation back and forth, back and forth. And it's through a means that works for you and that works for your client. And it's up to us to provide clients with different avenues to actually be able to communicate with us. We also need a one-to-many approach. So this would be in bulk. So whether it's you know, through whatever means. And obviously here, I mean, there's so many different tools that's available, from stuff like MailerLite for your emails to, or even ConvertKit or MailChimp or any of those. You can also think about things like WhatsApp. You can think about things like Facebook Messenger, Twitter, and direct messages on Twitter. Like, there's all these different sort of ways to enter into a conversation, and also to encourage people to have conversations with you. Another important thing is static information when it comes to information. Now, this is sort of going against the conversation thing, but I think there's a lot of times, a lot of questions that people keep on asking that you need to keep on answering. So why not create like a frequently asked questions on your website, and you can rather send them a link to go and say, look, I mean, we address this and more at this link, go and have a look. That is static information, but it's still a way of communicating, because it does help people understand, and it does answer their questions. So it's still a form of communication. So one of the things you'll see that I didn't get into is marketing. I mean, there's still a whole host of other things here. Prospect management, et cetera, et cetera. So not going to get into that. There's learning. There's all sorts of different aspects, HR, revenue management. So there's all these other aspects. Not going to get into those today, but these are the top 5 for me. So the bonus the bonus automation. So I'm burning now to introduce Louis and his segment. So the bonus automation is automation, and this is where you make things happen all by itself. Now, when you go and purchase a global financial planning conference ticket, you will see automation in action because it does absolutely everything without us having to touch anything. So you put in your information, you make the payment, you are created in the accounting system, your payment is allocated, your invoice is sent, and all that stuff we used to do manually. So a very simple way. So all that information you're gathering with your forms, how do we automate that? So that's definitely something to consider. Automation in your business. If you're happy with all 5 other things, I promise you, if there's one space where you can go and work and look at what's possible, it's automating the information that you have and the processes that you have. Let it happen by itself. Let a computer run that, because it frees up the time for you and your staff to do things that have even a bigger impact on your clients, and to look at the data and to come up with other ways of servicing and doing that with your clients. So absolutely critical. For automation, there's Zapier. Zapier is a tool that it makes it so much easier for people who just want to connect things and do certain things. I personally use Integromat. There's also things like I think automate.io. There is Microsoft Flow. So there's all these different automation tools available. For me, Integromat is the one to use. Other people prefer Zapier, and sometimes I use both Zapier and Integromat in tandem, just depending on what it is that I'm trying to get done. So that's it for this one. I'm now extremely excited to have Louis, and Louis is doing the segment called Beyond Financial Planning. As I said earlier, it's all about going to the next level, like what are the things we do beyond the advice and the planning, or things that we could do, and also where is the industry going. So looking at the future, it's one of Louis' favorite things to do, is to stare into his crystal ball. So let's hear what Louis has to share with us today.
To the first segment of Beyond Financial Planning. Today, I'd like to unpack a recent blog post by Money Quotient. Now, Money Quotient is a training school for financial planners based in America that really focus on building the personal side of financial planning. And they talk in their training around the research that 2 researchers published in the 1990s with the University of New South Wales. These guys were called Patterson and Schwarmer. And what they discovered is that people really struggle to determine the quality of financial advice. And they started doing that by breaking financial advice into a technical part as well as a functional part. Now, the technical part was really how likely is someone to beat their benchmarks and achieve their financial objectives in terms of the investment performance. Now, we know that the technical piece is extremely important, and that's why we spend a lot of time trying to obtain our designations and trying to keep up with CPD points, and it slowly moved past purely investment performance. What was interesting to me is to look at how they unpacked the functional side, and that was really the quality of the engagement with the clients, how the advisor showed empathy, what the levels of trust could be. And the clients used that to determine how comfortable and how happy they were with the quality of financial advice. Because let's face it, most people don't have the technical abilities to determine is the financial advice they're getting correct or even accurate for their position. Now, from the studies, given that this was done in the 1990s, how much time do we actually spend building the skills of the personal side of financial planning? In March this year, the CFP board in America has made the human side of financial planning and the personal side of financial planning a part of the curriculum. And that means that financial planners in America will be trained around things like behavioral biases, but also bringing in coaching and elements of financial therapy. This is not only a trend in America. We are starting to see clients wanting to have deeper conversations around their money scripts, around their money stories, the way they were brought up. Because we all know that the emotional piece of financial planning can either derail your financial plan or really keep you on track. In fact, someone like Rick Kaler says that up to 90% of our decisions around money is made based on our emotions. And how much time do we actually spend unpacking these emotions? Beyond financial planning is looking at both elements, the technical side of proficient financial advice, but also the functional side around building the human skills. I'm really proud to have recently completed the Certified Financial Transitionist training with the Sudden Money Institute. And for any financial planner that want to build the skills around the functional side, I think at the moment there's really 3 routes. The one route you can take is going the George Kinder registered life planning approach, where you spend time in a virtual session with a registered life planning facilitator, and you really build the skills to help someone look forward in terms of their life, to think about how they will tackle their bucket list. Now, there might be times when someone's not in a position to think clearly and to see exactly what they would plan for the rest of their future. And so this is where the Financial Transitionist Institute created their designation to say when someone's going through a major financial life event, the loss of a spouse, or even receiving a big windfall that some could see as positive, we need to have a different route. And their training is really all about taking someone through the steps to get to their new normal. And then thirdly, we have Money Quotient, which really focuses on the practice management side of the functional training. They spend a lot of time looking at the way you communicate with your clients, the type of content that you share with them, the type of discussions that you have with them. Now, all 3 of these training routes can be quite expensive. I'll urge you to check out the Vulintaba group, which is a group of like-minded lifestyle financial planners, and I look forward to sharing with you a little bit more around the training that you can tackle. Thank you, Francois.
Alrighty, and like that, we've come to the end of today's show. Just very quickly, thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, you made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much. I see there's quite a few people that have registered today, or subscribed rather today. I deeply appreciate it. We now are 984 subscribers, 16 away from that magical 1,000. So are you going to help us to get there? I surely do hope so. And please subscribe if you haven't yet. Like this video, share this video. It'll be of great help to all of us. Thank you very much. We will be back next week, same time, same place. Great content, great guests. Next week, I have the guys from Money and Medicine here on the show. So really looking forward to that one as well. And yeah, just on that note, I would say, have a great weekend. Stay safe, be blessed and prosper. And remember to raise the bar. Love you. See you next week.